just love music, they run the show at night. Dropping beats and lineup tips, turning waiver wire into light. Fast lane pickups, midnight moves, setting rosters right. They'll tell you who to start and who to bite the fight. Listen to sports rivals, rockin' renegades, crank it loud, crank it proud. Wanna win your fantasy league? Join the renegade crowd. John and Ralph know the way. They'll guide you through the fray. Starts and sits, waiver wire pickups. Tune in and play. From sleeper calls to breakout stars, they break it down and play by play. Stats and stories, grit and guts, they sharpen up your day. Trade advice and matchup gold, they hustle for your pay. Putting fantasy in overdrive, carving out the way. Listen to sports rivals, rockin' renegades, crank it loud, crank it proud. Wanna win your fantasy league? Join the renegade crowd. John and Ralph know the way. They'll guide you through the fray. Starts and sits, waiver wire pickups. Tune in and play. Late night hustle, early morning reads, they're scanning every game. Fast lane pickups, timely hits, they've got the instincts and the flame. No fluff, no noise, just real talk, no two hosts the same. John and Ralph, your fantasy compass, staking out the claim. Listen to sports rivals, rockin' renegades, crank it loud, crank it proud. Wanna win your fantasy league? Join the renegade crowd. John and Ralph know the way. They'll guide you through the fray. Starts and sits, waiver wire pickups. Tune in and play. Listen to sports rivals, rockin' renegades, rock your roster every day. Fast lane pickups, John and Ralph know the way.
Here we are, fantasy football fans. I can't believe it. Week 10 of the season. I hope you're doing well in your fantasy league. Welcome to Sports Bible, Rockin' Renegades. And it's brought to you by First Do Plumbing. You have any problems, any backups, you need some pipe laid, First Do Plumbing is who you need to call. 412-979-5407. Best in the biz to get your clogs done. They can put your sinks in, they do your baths, whatever you need. Call First Do. They'll take care of you. And I want to welcome my, you guys know him, the guru of the gridiron. He's our special guest every week. Give it up for John. What do you say, John? How are you, man?
Ralph, how are you, brother? Welcome
Good. Who
to
you wearing today?
Oh man, one of my favorite players of all time, Ricky Jackson.
Ricky
Old
Jackson.
school
Nice.
State.
If I would have known you were going to wear that, I would have worn my Drew Brees for you tonight.
Oh man, we'd have been set.
Week 10, John. Can you believe it?
Well, how was it for week 10? It's week 11 now, man.
Oh, Christ. You're right. It's week 11. Christ,
You're talking about that. I know what you're talking about. I know. That stuff happens, man. You know.
I should say, how was your week 10, John?
Week 10 was okay. I mean, I won in one league, lost in another. Got disappointed in our league. So
it happens. Hey,
you know how that is.
It happens, man. Don't get disappointed with it, man. It's the way fantasy goes. There's good trades, there's bad trades, and especially in our leagues. I want to say something to you guys. Dynasty leagues. If you're doing like keeper leagues and dynasty leagues, older players do get moved around. We're in a league where we trade picks. You can trade first round, second round picks. to move some players, especially if you're a team that's rebuilding. So there's never, I mean, there's good trades, there's bad trades, but you never know how it's going to pan out until the end of the year or next year. So, John, hang in there, man. That's all I can say to you. But
That's right, man.
So what do you think? So we first do plumbing. You don't have any clogs or anything, do you, John?
No, everything's good here, man. I'm the house is feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Plumbing's working good. Don't need to lay any pipe.
That's right. That's right. Go and get those guys, though, man. Talk about them. Go ahead, Ralph.
Absolutely. First do plumbing. Check them out, John. Speaking of sponsors, how about that Fast Lane Coffee, man? And Fast Lane Coffee always brings us the Fast Lane Player of the Week, right? So give it a little plug. What kind of coffee we drinking tonight, John?
I doubled it up, man. I got the Coca Tonic Phonic.
Nice.
So we got 8 varieties, 8 flavors right now. More on the way. You got chocolate, you got coffee, you got baker's chocolate. I mean, just whatever you want. Delicious coffee. I mean, I stand behind it because not only is my name on it, I love the way it tastes, but yeah, really good stuff.
So I'm guessing I could guess the Fast Lane Player of the Week. And for any of you guys that played against this guy, I feel sorry for you. Who do we got, John?
That's right. It was tough if anybody played against him. And fortunately, I did not. But Jonathan Taylor, I mean, 23 carries, 244 yards, and 3 TDs. And if you got to watch that game, the run that he went for 80 yards was unbelievable. Right into the stack, and then you thought he was down, not moving. Everybody just goes into that pile. He breaks out and goes for 80. I mean, when this guy is healthy, can we say it, Ralph, man? Best running back in the league.
No doubt, John. I got to tell you, in my big money league this week, I have Taylor, I had Gibbs, and I had Dart. I ended up getting 150 points out of 3 players. It was a beautiful week in my money league. Jonathan Taylor, what can you say, man? Healthy for the first time in 3 years. The guy's an animal. He's a beast. He gets to run behind a halfway decent line. And who would have known that Danny Dimes is going to revive his career, out in Indy, man. The team's looking great. Good defense, good. Even a good passing game. You're looking at a guy like Michael Pittman that's having a good year out there. Not getting a ton of yards, but racking up some TDs. They're looking good, man. And especially the Tyler Warren, man, the young tight end. If you were able to pick him up in the first or second round of your drafts, you're doing well. Guys, if you have any questions, you need any advice, not that we can help you because we're on a bad end of our own advice sometimes, but we can guide you in the right direction. So John, it's been another week of injuries. That's been the MO of the year this year. You got guys like it sucks for the Giants, man. It looks like Dart's going to be out for a week or so with concussion. Good old Jameis is coming in to toss the rock around for a little bit. It's going to be fun to see. He might throw for 10 touchdowns this week and probably 10 interceptions, but you never know what's going to happen with him. A few things I want to talk about before we get into the start and sits. How about some players to add this week? And I'm not talking about players. You guys know this guy in your keepers league. You should have already drafted him probably early. And I'm talking about the Broncos running backs. With Dobbins sitting, Harvey is probably going to be the guy to tote the rock for them. We're going to see a nice big dose of him. John, your thoughts on Harvey this week?
I like Harvey this week, Ralph. I mean, not only the reason that I like him is because of the fact that, what I saw last week out of that Broncos offense against the Raiders, I mean, we thought that they were just going to eat the Raiders alive. They did absolutely nothing. I mean, Bo Nix looked like a deer in the headlights in that game. If everybody got to see that. Actually, we'll talk about this a little later as he's one of my sits. But Harvey, I mean, they're going to be running the football and playing great defense. That's what that team is predicated on. Sean Payton, obviously loves to run the ball. But I mean, when that passing game's not working, They're going to be running, and that defense is going to play well, and you know you can stand behind that defense.
I fully agree with you. And, John, while we're talking about running backs, there's another young guy that's actually going to finally get his shot this week. It's looking like Ramondre Stevenson is going to be out. And it sucks that, Henderson's still sharing carries, but I think this is the week where he gets his big shot. If he's still out there, it's a guy, pick up, start for New England. John, give me your thoughts on Trevion Henderson.
Boy, didn't we see a lot out of him last week, too? I mean, that was a breakout that we expected. Stevenson.
We've been waiting for it, John. We've been waiting for it all year, right?
We were. And that's a really good team right now. That's a major contender in the AFC. Seeing that guy carrying the ball, young guy, fits great with what that team likes to do. I think, not only do I think that he's going to showcase in this game, I think he's going to be the starter from now on. I really do. I mean, I think with the way Drake May's playing in that offense, they have some injuries, but, Mike Vrabel hasn't playing so well. I mean, it's next man up. The receivers that are stepping in, unbelievable. Really
we'll talk about the receivers because I got one of my starts this week in the New England receiver corps. But the thing that worries me about New England is we say next man up, and we want to say, but like when Ramondre comes back, does he get the touches again? We'd like to say Henderson is going to be the guy, but he even, lost a couple touches last week. Is he going to be the main guy? That's the thing. It's hard to say. I don't trust any of the New England running backs, but for this week, I do go with Henderson.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think Vrabel has to see that eventually. Just from what that team was last year to the way they're playing this year, obviously the guy's a hell of a coach. I would have loved to have had him here in Pittsburgh, and I expressed that last year before, but, unfortunately we don't. But he's doing really well there. I think he's one of the standout coaches in this league, and he has been for a while.
I agree. One guy I want to talk about. It might not be starting this week, but he's back on a practice. He's back practicing again. It's John, and we talked about Jacksonville a few times and the problems that they had for receiver. They bring in the guy at the trade deadline, but the guy I want to talk about is the tight end. It's Brenton Strange. The guy's coming back, off, being injured. You look at how he started. He started on fire. I mean, the guy was getting 6-7 receptions, at least 6-7 targets a game. If he's out there for you guys looking for a tight end, you have some injuries, somebody you want to throw in, Brenton Strange might be a guy to throw in. And, talking about the Strange, everybody loves the good Strange, right?
That's right. So if you love the Strange, go to Jacksonville, look him up on the waiver wires and jump on it.
Hey, John, coming up next year, we got the NFL draft here in Pittsburgh. And Sports 5 was actually going to have their own draft party. We're talking about Lucky 13s. We talked about them. They're a sponsor here on the site, great food. But they're going to do the 2026 draft party, and that's going to be the 23rd of April next year, Thursday night. I'm sure John and I will be there to come welcome you all. We could talk some football. We could talk some fantasy. We could talk some draft picks, and even better yet, we can drink. So it's going to be a 75 people private party. There's going to be helmets, jerseys, autographs, things that you can put in for. I'm sure there's going to be giveaways. I'm sure there's going to be drink specials, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of drunk guys talking football. And that's what we love about it. It's going to be nice, John. Can't wait.
Yeah, the draft party in Pittsburgh, and I hear JT's going to be buying everybody around too.
That's what I love to hear, man. That's what I love to hear.
That's why they call it Lucky 13s. You're lucky as soon as you walk in.
Speaking of that, John, it's been a day. I'm actually on the old fashions myself tonight.
That's the way to do it. Talking fantasy football, old fashioned. I mean, just
Sports 5 will never said I couldn't drink on camera. So they said I can't drop the F-bomb too much, but they never said I couldn't drink. So
I think the F-bomb is football. I just keep saying it.
God, It's been a year. I feel you, John. It's been the same for me in both leagues. I'm doing okay in three of the four, but the one I should be doing real well in. 3 wins is tough. When you lose Lamar Jackson for most of the year, and my receiving core has been struggling, and I feel your pain out there, guys. But if you have fantasy questions, reach out to us. Let us know what you got. But John, before we start into our start and sits, we're about halfway through the show already, if you can believe it.
Fast.
And you know what? We should start talking about our pickups for the Lingerie Football League, because what man wouldn't want to be behind that line, right? But I'm talking about
definitely want to be under
about
center.
the league. Sure. I'm actually talking. I'm going to talk about laying some pipe here, but it's not about the Lingerie Football League. First, do plumbing. You guys have any problems, any clogs, any backups? You need toilets installed, anything you need, call these guys. First, they will be out to help you. Let's go with our starts and sits, John. Do you want to start with the quarterbacks this week?
Yeah, my start this week, I'll definitely start, is Matt Stafford. I mean, if you really look at this, why would you even sit this guy the way he's playing? I mean, even without Puka on the field, but you put Puka Nacua on that field, Devontae Adams is a little busted up right now, but this team is playing absolutely lights out. I don't know if we'd ever predicted this, but, right now they're sitting as one of the top, I'm going to say one of the top 2 teams in the NFC, no doubt. Defense is playing strong. Matt Stafford, I mean, we called him last week the ageless wonder. And he's, you got to start him, man, week in and week out. And he went low in a lot of these drafts. I mean,
yeah,
and he consistently does. He just overproduces every year. But my start is Matt Stafford.
I got to tell you, John, I came across the wire, and it's saying McVay is saying Devontae Adams is playing this week. Nice. So there's a good chance that Stafford is going to have his full receiving core, for him this week, which is nice.
How about you,
so
Rob?
John? I'm going to go a little bit out on my start at quarterback this week, and we already talked about the beginning about the bad luck the Giants have, losing Scat Bro, right? And then now with Dart going down with a concussion, he's already sitting this week. On the waiver wire in every league is Jameis Winston. Winston's going to get to start. Granted, he might throw 10 touchdowns, but he might throw 10 interceptions with it. If you're in a super flex league, you need that second quarterback. You're looking for a guy that needs to start. Your guys are on a bye. I say you pick up Jameis Winston. You start him this week. They're going against the Bears. Now, you look at the Bears. They're the 6th most points allowed to quarterbacks, right? And if you look at Winston's numbers, when he did play last year, every game he was close to throwing for 300 yards. I mean, how can you go wrong? And, granted, the receivers aren't there. Neighbors is hurt. But, yeah, I say start Winston this week.
I like the pick, and you mentioned the Giants receiving core. You're going to want to start those guys. I mean, if you have a receiver, somebody on bye week this week, jump on the waiver wire and look up guys. Wan'Dale Robinson and definitely Darius Slayton. If the tight end Johnson is out there, you want to grab him up. But I mean, these guys are going to get the targets from Jameis. I mean, he's going to put the ball in the air. There's no doubt about that. Like you said, most of the games that he starts, he throws for 300. You're going to get the 4 interceptions, or you could have a Jameis Winston, like years ago, where we saw a 300-yard game, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and maybe 1 interception.
It happens from him, occasionally. So, like I said, if you're in that super flex league, you're looking for that second quarterback. And granted, he's going to be out there in 90% of the leagues. He's the guy you pick up. It's the guy you start, give him a shot. You're not going to find anything better this week. So what do you got at running back, John?
You just mentioned him earlier, Travion Henderson.
Nice.
For the Pats. Like we said earlier, this guy's going to get the touches. We saw the breakout that we expected last year or last week. Excellent team. Patriots, they've been playing very fundamentally sound. I like the way they run the ball. I like the way, Drake May has looked this year as far as, sitting in the pocket, going through his progressions, his reads. That team is playing very well. And this guy at running back, um, I think he's a long-term answer. I really do. I like what I've seen out of him so far, especially last week. So Trevion Henderson this week is my start.
John, I'm going to stay with the rookies this week. I am actually going to start Judkins. I have him in my other league. I'm starting him. They're fresh off, coming off the bye. Before week 8, he was in the top 12 of running backs every week. I gotta go with Judkins, man. He's a beast, man. If Cleveland could find a solid start, I don't know. I'm not seeing much out of Dylan. Do they give Sanders a start? I don't know. There's talk about which the massage guru coming
Watson.
back in Watson. But there's a good stat. Henderson and Judkins were teammates in Ohio last year. So it's a good pairing this week if you're looking for that young running back start, right?
That's right. Yeah, Judkins, anytime he touches the ball, I mean, he's looked good. Obviously he's with Cleveland, which is a setback for him. But I mean, he's going to see the touches there. They don't have a whole lot of stellar weapons, and rookie quarterback. You always need that guy to not only check down to, but that running game is key there. They got a good defense. They always have.
And even thinking about that, I mean, maybe Judy. I mean, Jerry Judy is out there now. I think you're going to start seeing more targets from Judy.
I think so too.
He's in a waiver wire. You're looking for a wide receiver 3 or 4. Maybe a good pickup. Pick up Judy, start him.
I think so too. I mean, you're looking at divisional game where they got the Ravens this week, right?
Yeah.
This is you never know what you're going to get out of a divisional game. I mean, Cleveland comes in, nothing to lose. It's going to be, and it's I believe it's at Cleveland. I mean, if it's at Cleveland, then you're looking at a whole another thing there. I mean, these guys play, this is somewhat their playoff game, their Super Bowl. They're going to want to knock the Ravens off, and I think you're going to see. I'm not going to say you're going to see a great Cleveland team this week, but I think you're going to see a very competitive Cleveland team this week. They're going to come to play, like you said, after that bye week.
And hey, John, I'm going to go with my start this week. If you're looking for a good number 2, number 3, since we've been talking about New England a lot, I'm starting Diggs. With Booty still being out, Henderson, toting the ball, Ramondre's not going to be there to vulture any touches. I think you're going to see, I think you rack up Diggs for a good, 7 to 9 targets a game this week. I think he's going to be a good start for you.
Yeah, I like Stephon Diggs. I mean, unfortunately, in our league, I had to, we had to get down to that 10-man roster, and I had to let him go. The guy, when he's healthy, consistent. He makes a ton of competitive catches. I mean, he's aggressive. I think that's an excellent start. I mean, he's got to throw to somebody, and if you're going to throw to somebody, that's the guy.
And you look at Diggs the last couple of weeks, his targets haven't been that high, anywhere between 5 to 7 targets. His yardage hasn't been a ton, 50 to 60 yards, but he's been putting up the touchdowns.
Right.
If you're in a touchdown-dependent league, if you're not a PPR league, depending on your league, it's a good week to pick up Diggs and start him.
Yeah, if you find him on the waiver wire, you definitely grab him up. You won't see him too much, but let's go for him if you got him.
So I already know who your receiver start is this week, and we're going to go toe-to-toe about this guy. But who do we got this week, John?
We got DK Metcalf, and we have him for 2 different reasons. I got him starting for the simple fact that the way that offense played last week. I mean, lethargic. Nobody was on point for anything. I mean, the passing game was bad. The running game was bad.
Your cornerbacks are bad. The coaching was bad. It was just plain flat out bad.
And
we talk about this, and we've been talking and talking. When's the change coming? The Rooneys aren't going to make a change. We know there's not going to be a change in the coaching staff. Now he's starting to lose the locker room. Rodgers is opening his mouth. Warren's opening his mouth. Watt's opening his mouth. Everybody has something to say now. This isn't Steeler football, man. When did the Rooneys lose control of this, man?
I think when Dan Rooney passed away is when they lost control of it. I mean, we saw that, almost immediately. They relocated too much. Tomlin has entirely too much say-so in this organization and what they do. His philosophy, at least what I see is very passive. You can call him a player-friendly coach, which is all well and good. But when a team doesn't have discipline, when you have these kind of mistakes every single week, blown coverages and miscommunications, not tackling. When the fundamentals are lost, that automatically goes to the coach. And this has been going on. Ralph, you and I talk about this every year for at least 10 years.
You're right. All that money spent in that backfield with the missed tackles, you know what I mean? Like I said, the fundamentals just aren't there, in not having your team prepared for these lower teams. There's no reason we should be go out losing to these teams.
Right.
I get it. It's a little different between the guys like the Colts, the Chargers, and stuff like that. But when you go out, you're losing to teams you should be crushing. I blame that on coaching, man. But your starter this week is DK. I get it. He's the main guy in a passing thing. Rodgers, is he done? Has he had a bad week? Maybe. There's going to be calls pretty soon for the Will Howard call. We want to know what we have out of that guy before, we have to draft a quarterback next week. I can hear him already. I can hear the phones ringing. Everybody wants to start Will Howard. It's one bad week out of Rodgers. You might as well start Mason Rudolph. You might as well bring in, whoever off the field. It's one bad week, people.
Right.
I say you still stick with, Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, Will Howard has been activated off the IR. Right. So the calls are coming out, John. You might, before the end of the year, we might see Will Howard and know what we have from him before the next season. And if they keep playing like they're playing, we might not even make the playoffs. This might be the first year that the Steelers fall behind, their 500 record. But enough of that. Let's go to our sits, John. What do you got to sit this week?
Quarterback, I mentioned him earlier, Bo Nix. What I saw last week, I don't know what happened to the guy. I mean, it just looked like I said, he looked like a deer in the headlights last week. He's not feeding the ball to Cortland Sutton. You don't see, that chemistry just isn't there. I was really surprised at what I saw, definitely against the Raiders. I mean, you would think that team, they have them, right now, what are they, the number 2 seed in the AFC? And, I just didn't see enough out of him last week, and even the week before to say, definitely start him. I think, this week you sit Bo Nix. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think you're going to see a lot of RJ Harvey. So I would recommend sitting him. That's my sit of the week.
And the guy that I'm looking at sitting this week, I mean, it's not a bad matchup for him, but Jordan Love. Love has been just a disappointment, this year. I mean, he's been like a quarterback 14, 15, 16. He's struggled, and I get it. The receiving core, you got Golden out. The news came in that Dobbs is playing this week. So you got Dobbs, you have Watson. I just don't know. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's finished in like the top 15, 16. 3 out of the last 4. I mean, in 5 of his last 8 outings, he hasn't even finished in the top 10 of quarterbacks.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong this week. They got the Giants, but I until I see something better. I have Jordan Love in the league. I have to start him because I have Dart as my other quarterback. But if I had another choice, I wanted to start Jordan Love this week.
It's funny. I mean, you talk about Jordan Love, and I think sometimes it's a case of, they have so many different weapons on that team, but they don't have weapons that are consistent. I mean, you have two receivers playing 1 week, and then Watson's out for an extended period of time. It's just it seems like it's been going on, for the last 2 years. I would like to see this kid have some chemistry with somebody, have a, besides Dobbs.
Yeah.
He was starting to build that up, with Tucker Kraft, and obviously he went out. But to have that full complement of weapons that are consistent, I think that's when we're going to see the best out of Jordan Love. I think right now, I think it's just it's a combination of things. Just I think it's that, but I also think it's a in the play calling, hasn't been spot on. He's not getting the protection that he had last year. I mean, it's a combination of things, but I think it's going to come around once you get some consistency with those players.
I hope you're right, because like I said, I have him in my money league, and I'm starting him this week. So, but one guy I want to say,
so,
John, in my money league though too. Like I said, I am starting Love, but the guy that got cut in my money league is Joe Burrow.
Oh,
Joe
man.
Burrow is going to be coming back. He's going to be hitting a practice field. They were saying the beginning of December. I'm hearing if he's sitting out there on your waiver wire, people, Joe Burrow might be out until only Thanksgiving. I don't know. It's tough. We will see. But if he's out there, make sure you pick up Burrow.
No
Let's
doubt.
go to our running back, Sean. Who are we sitting this week?
I'm sitting Kenneth Walker. When you look at that Seattle team, Kenneth Walker is one of those guys that, he does just enough, to stay very relevant. I think he's a good running back. The bad thing is Charbonnet stealing the goal line carries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been going on for the last couple of years.
There's
no the consistency. I mean, it's just it's tough. It's tough to start him week in and week out, and on a very good football team too. I mean, one of the best teams in the NFC right now. I really like what that coaching staff is doing there. Excellent. The defense is playing well. Sam Darnold is I'm not going to say he's playing his best, but he's playing consistent enough. They're winning games. They're beating the teams that they should beat, and doing it well. I think that's an excellent team right there. I like Seattle. I could see them going. I'm not going to say deep playoff run yet, but unfortunately, sitting Kenneth Walker, he's just not getting. He doesn't get the touchdowns, doesn't get the goal line carry. So that's the reason why for my sit this week.
We got a ping from Terry, man. He says he hates the Saints, but he said that's a nice jersey you got going on there.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I've had this since the 80s. I mean, collecting for that long. And
John, I can't believe what you have from the 80s still fits. I can tell you the stuff that I had from the 80s would not fit me.
Yeah.
Hey, John, to the running backs, my sit of the week. And it's a team that's been struggling. And I know you just traded for their quarterback not too long ago. And I want to go to Tampa Bay, and I want to go to Rashad White. White's a guy that, he needs the touches. I love the ticker that comes across. 187 jerseys and 3 pairs of underwear. That's probably true. That's probably true with most of you guys.
That's it. I live in jerseys, man.
But White, Mayfield's been struggling a little bit, and we talked about adding, Tej Johnson and, Mbuka. We're actually hoping that, Godwin with the fibia comes back soon for them. But and they're praying to God that Bucky comes back. And, Rashad White is a guy that needs like 20 to 25 touches to even compile any kind of numbers. If they fall behind this week, I don't know. I just can't trust in Rashad White this week. He's my sit of the week.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I mean, they're playing Buffalo. It's going to be the two quarterbacks going toe to toe. I think you're going to see some points this week out of that game. Buffalo was bad last week against Miami. So,
well, that's what I was going to say. The thing about Buffalo is you can run on Buffalo. You can. Right. But my thing on this is I think the Bills are going to be up fast. Rashad White's going to end up sitting. They're going to be playing catch up all game.
Agree.
I can't trust White this week.
I totally agree with you. That's why I'm starting Mayfield big time.
Understood.
You can get a
Yeah,
lot of yards out of the air,
I
man.
don't blame you. Who's your receiver sit this week, John?
I'm going to compliment Bo Nix and sit Cortland Sutton this week. I mean, the guy, I just picked him up in our league in a trade, in a Mayfield trade, and last week it was something like 3 catches for 25 yards. I mean, against the Raiders, and that's just something that they call him Bo Nix's guy, and you figure that, hey, you got this big, stud receiver, you should be, feeding him the ball, and it's kind of like the AJ Brown, case in Philly, and
We talk
know
about
all
that
about
a
that
lot.
for me.
Yeah.
It's just the way these quarterbacks are playing. That they're not calling these guys names. In any of the plays and a lot of the plays. To see a guy like that put up 3 for 25 against the Raiders is definitely a reason to sit him next week.
But the same thing you're seeing, like you hit the nail on the head, John, when you said about what's going on in Denver is happening in Philly. A guy like Cortland Sutton, who else they have to really throw to? You got Marvin Mims, right? You got Troy Franklin. Why is Sutton not seeing, 9, 10 targets a game? That's the same thing like that you should be seeing with A.J. Brown in Philly. I get it. Smith is getting some of the catches. We do have Barkley out of the backfield. And then you get the tush push there in Philly. You people who love Hurts, Hurts is not a good quarterback. You heard it here. He's a good fantasy quarterback. We're talking fantasy. So if you have him in fantasy, you want to start him every week. Don't get me wrong. But if he was on my team, I wouldn't want him. I get it. You want a Super Bowl, but so did Trent Dilfer, right? So, and guess what? So did Mike Tomlin. And this is going to bring me to my sit of the week. DK Metcalf. I know you had him in the start. I'm sitting. I'm sitting because I don't trust what's going on with Tomlin. I don't trust what's going on with Rodgers. I don't trust what's going on with that team. Right? They could be down. You know what I mean? They could be throwing. But I can't take another, 2 catches for 50 yards and no touchdowns on a DK Metcalf. Him and Rodgers should have been they should be on point already this year. Metcalf's a great receiver. He can get up, he can get the ball. Yes, he does drop the ball, pretty frequently, but they should be peppering him, and they're not.
Agree.
The Steelers have nobody else to throw to, which is another reason why he should be good. And I agree with your start of the week at stardom. Who they're going to throw to? Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson. Who else do you have there? And they've been using the tight ends, getting a Freiermuth. And I just don't trust Tomlin. I don't trust Rodgers. I don't trust the Steelers. And I hate to say for you Steeler fans, it's going to be a long year if they start dropping some games. The locker room's already breaking up. Rodgers maybe can't feed him the ball. I don't trust him. Metcalf is my sit this week.
Everything you said was on point. And we talk about this, in our chat all the time, and and I'm constantly on Facebook in these chats. Colin Cowherd, said something good the other day in the fact that he said
something good. He never says anything good.
That's it. Usually he doesn't, but there's some things that I agree on. And he said, this week that out of all the teams in the league this year, the Steelers are the ones that he can't identify at all. I mean, what do we have here? We don't know what we have here. The defense plays good one week, they're horrible the next. The offense plays good one week, horrible the next. Last week we saw a total collapse. I mean, when are we going to, as an organization, figure this out already, that there's one constant that is here, and that is Mike Tomlin?
The organization has no identity, John. They don't know if they want to run the ball. They don't want to know if they want to throw the ball. They don't even know. You have a defensive-minded coach. They should be a defensive-minded team. But what you're getting 30 and 40 points hung on you every week, that shows me you're not a defensive-minded team.
Right.
Something needs to be done. We need change in Pittsburgh. Reach out to the Rooneys. Tell them your thoughts.
I agree. We need a culture adjustment. I mean, that's really what it is. This team is, I've said this a million times. They are a mirror image of their coach. They play that way. The passive. You don't see the aggressiveness is not there. The hunger's not there.
There's
They
no
come up
fire,
weak.
John. Do you
That's
remember?
it.
Do you remember about 2 or 3 years ago when you seen a fire under T.J. Watt when he was in on every play, making every tackle? You know, these guys, you know, were constant. You could see it. There was hunger. They wanted to do something on defense. Now it's just like, okay, no pass rush. Oh, we got how many millions and millions of dollars, you know, wrapped up in our backfield between Slay and Ramsey and Porter, who will hold on to his grandma to pull her down. You know what I mean? It's just like we have this team needs a full overhaul. You know, for me.
Agreed.
But
They need
anyway,
to rebuild. I mean, that's what it is.
we'll let Sports 5, we'll let the NFL talk, we'll let their experts talk about that. And I know there was a Sports 5 article about the Steelers that came out this week, or at the beginning of this week, I think it was, from the loss of the Chargers, kind of talking about what we just discussed. But we won't get into that. Anyway, John, it's that time. I hate to say it, man. We're over. They didn't pull us. They didn't pull our card. We didn't get yanked this week.
That's always
We
good.
had a little bit of chance to talk. Everybody, stick with your fantasy team. It'll be okay. If not, there's always next year. Plenty of guys to pick up, plenty of starts. And again, if it's if your team's upsetting your stomach and you have those bad feelings and that rumbling, make sure you call the plumbers, man. First Due Plumbing will always take care of you. John, thank you very much. Good luck this week.
Good talking to you,
See
man.
you next week.
All right, Ralph. Good luck, everybody.